Hey everybody, I've got Dominique Stumpf here with NPMA, the National Pest Management Association, as our guest today. Dominique, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Rusty.
Also, I think you're getting ready for Memorial Day weekend party. We can say that now because by the time this airs, it won't be a surprise anymore, right?
Right.
Well, how are things? How are things in your world?
Oh, it's great. We are busy. So personally, got a lot going on at home. Our house is under construction. Family, summer is always the time where you want to spend a lot of time, kind of blending all your worlds together, and it becomes complicated and sometimes more stressful than you think you're signing up for. And work is NPMA has just been booming. Everybody's super busy in the industry, which is great. Keeps us busy, and we just have a lot going on.
That's awesome. Well, I want to give you a shout out. If you go back to listen to several of our podcast episodes over the last 2 years, which Maria, how long have we been doing this? I know we talk about this every time. What, 2 years? When this July will be 3 years that we service our very first customer. Me being brand new to the pest control industry, and when I was deciding that this was something I wanted to do. I searched pest control on Google probably about 4,000 times, and NPMA, which I'd never heard of, kept coming up in the Google results. And I see articles and content, and so NPMA was one of the first, probably the first organization I joined as a member. I think probably even prior to officially even launching. And you guys have been just a huge resource to me and to our team and Pruitt Pest Control. So number one, I want to say thank you, because I know for a fact I personally would not be where I am today in the industry if it weren't for you and NPMA.
Well, you're welcome, Rusty. And I love your story. I love that we were able to be a part of it. And, this is what inspires us to keep doing what we do every day.
Well, that's awesome. So let's talk about your journey to where you are now as CEO of NPMA. Is this something you grew up as a small child saying, hey, I want to run this pest control association over the whole country and throughout the world? I mean, was this your lifelong dream? I can imagine it was, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, no, I think like many professionals, and it's maybe I would say successful professionals, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, right? It's just like a life journey of learning and, grabbing the moment, seizing the opportunity, and really just knowing your strengths, where you fit and what makes you happy. And I would say those are the things that have driven me my whole life, my career. I've always had the thought process of like, if you don't love what you're doing, like give it like 3 months. First of all, I was taught at a very young age, you got to stick everything out for a year. No matter what you do, if you say you're going to do it, you better be planning on a year. And you don't quit. There's no quitting around here. Didn't matter if it was sports, after school activities, whatever it was. And then it became jobs, right? So one of my first jobs out of college, I got to a place and I was like, I don't think this is for me. This isn't what I wanted to do. And I think I should move on. And I said, like, if I'm unhappy, I'm not doing myself a service. I'm not doing the people that I work for or with a service. So I owe it to everyone to really kind of remove myself. So I've kind of just always thrived on, making sure I'm always living in a happy space. Listen, we all know every day isn't like happy, but most days should be, because you spend a lot of time doing what we do, right? And then you want to be happy doing it. So my journey, I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to work in the pest control industry or in an association, because to be honest with you, I didn't know what an association was. So just like you, Rusty, I had no idea what association meant, let alone, the National Pest Control or Pest Management Association, as today is known. I think, living in the Washington, D.C. area, it certainly is eye-opening. And when you start getting into politics, that is my background, so educational background, I got a degree in political science. My passion is history, so I have a degree in that too. And so Washington, D.C. was natural for me. I love history. This is like a mecca of American history. And then political science, of course. But what I found is I really didn't like politics so much. So I wanted to pursue some other things. And so I came to NPCA at the time. It was actually changing its name in that same time period to the National Pest Management Association. And realized I just saw opportunity. I didn't understand. I didn't know what it did. Like, I knew associations from a structure standpoint and how they advocate. And like, so I understood what the purpose was, but I didn't know what NPCA did. And I certainly didn't understand the industry. I really had no idea. I mean, I come from Northeastern Ohio, and probably, my parents were probably not in an economic status where you really had pest control services. It was probably a luxury. And obviously if you had a problem, you would take care of it. So, and farmers, right? So it's just different, just a different upbringing. So I remember when I was interviewing, I was like, and this is probably not a shiny moment for me. I was like, the lady kept saying on the phone, like I kept calling, and I was prank calling her practically, because when she answered the phone, she would be National Pest Control Association. I kept hearing press, and I thought, I literally like hang up the phone. I'm like, I mean, I know I'm not super experienced, but isn't it illegal? Like, I don't think you're supposed to do that. Like, so I'm like, I don't understand. Until I showed up at the front door, I really had no idea, like, what is this organization? So I came and I saw that it was National Pest Control Association. So that provided some clarity for me. I was thankful for. And came in, met with, our EVP at the time. And, I was like, at the time I was reading, if you might remember, we had the Pest Gazette, which was like a small consumer piece that was developed to really educate residential customers on the value of pest control. And it's something members could personalize. It's back when you printed stuff and left it at people's doors, right?
Right.
The
good old days.
Yeah, exactly. I read it and I thought, wow, these people really make a difference in the world. Like, they're like saving me from disease. Like, all of a sudden my eyes were open. Like, there's all these things these people are responsible for, whether it's the food on my plate or creating a safe environment. Like, it really was eye-opening to me. And so in meeting with folks here, I was an executive assistant, starting out the gate. I was kind of like, yeah, it's a job. I mean, I need one, and I can do this. I got this. I'm good with that. I can type, right? You're like, in fact, we really didn't have internet. There was none of those things involved. Like, so it was actually, the facsimile was still one of the carbon copies that you like print. And
wow, that is old school.
Horrible. Like, and since that day I started, my first day, my immediate supervisor, the lady that hired me, I was a shared position, executive / meetings assistant. She resigned. And I was like, just tell me now. Like, I haven't signed my paperwork yet. Like, and she was like, she did me a favor in life. She's like, no, it's good. It's good. She kept the stuff to herself. She's very professional. And I was like, all right. So within 2 weeks, I was like sitting in senior meetings, having a voice at the table. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not going to be quiet. So, I mean, if I'm in a room, I think I should talk. Like, I should definitely be heard. And I always recommend to people, like when I hear people say, I don't feel like I could be heard. I don't have a voice. I'm like, use it. God gave it to you for a reason. I don't know who told you you couldn't talk, but we should all probably let others talk more and listen and all those great things. But if you have something, contribute. That's what you're here for. So yeah, I've just been contributing since the day I arrived, and I quickly kind of just started learning other responsibilities within the organization, changed different positions. I spent most of my time at NPMA, so I've been here 26 years, and in the meetings field. So I did take on that. I was at NPMA. I don't know if you ever heard the short story, but I'll make it short. I was probably here 3 months, and it's already been very tumultuous, lots of different changes and things going on. I think I'd had like 2 different bosses. The EVP had remained the same. And we were at Pest World, Minneapolis, 1997. And the meeting planner, so the person running the convention, like on their way down the escalator, the other boss going up the escalator said, I quit.
Yeah.
So I was next in line. Remember, I don't even know what this is about. Like, I have no, like, all I know though is I'm a super organized, detailed person, and I love a challenge, and I like helping people. So, but literally, like, he sat me down. He's like, okay, it's you. Like, you ready for this? I'm like, hyperventilating. Like, what do you mean I'm ready for this? Like, I'm not equipped. I don't have the knowledge. Like, you're counting on me to do something. It seems pretty significant. Like, and he's like, I'll help you. So super blessed that I had the opportunity that somebody could say they saw me enough to say, I know you can do it. And I'm probably over time, he's probably like, I'm sorry I said that. Because then I was always like, I got this, stay out of my way. Like,
How large was the organization in 97 compared to what it is today?
So we were probably about 3,000 member companies. So a bit smaller, not as connected probably. Like we have just a lot more stuff we do now. It looked very different than Rusty. You talk about male dominated industry. I mean, there was very little women. I mean, very, very little showing of women at all at that time. We've grown a lot as an organization, as a convention, trade show. I mean, it was probably half the size, if not less at that time. It seemed pretty big to me then, though. It seemed very big. So
I can imagine at that age and in that level of experience. I mean, talk about being thrown to the fire and to figure it out. We tell some of our people, we're like, hey guys, just figure it out. There's no playbook for this. You just got to go out there and do it. I mean, you're the sort of the poster child for that, right? I mean, leading an organization, even though 3,000, I mean, that's still a fairly large organization, in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it was, and we didn't have technology. I mean, there were so many things we have today that make life more complicated, but easier, I guess, too. But so anyways, that was kind of how I got thrown in, and it just really probably pushed me even forward faster. But I stuck in that space for a long time. And then I really got into professional development. I really wanted to help our team members learn and grow within their roles. I got involved in some other outside organizations. So the American Society of Association Executives. So that was a huge network for me. I highly advise people to find a place where they can learn from outside the business. And so did that. And then, I mean, the big change was when, our EVP, Rob Lederer, resigned, and that was in 2012. And then they were like, okay, we're going to, find somebody to come in here. And so at the time I was like, I was pretty much kind of running the operation from some level. And I was like, I'd like to be the COO. I'm ready. I want to do it. So I took on things like HR, things I should have had no business doing, but I learned a lot because we didn't have those things. And I was like, we need it. We should do these things. So created a lot of processes and different ways of serving our, employees to create a really strong culture, and really just kind of learned a lot more about some different areas of the organization. So that was a huge learning moment for me. And then I did that up until when they were looking for a CEO. And so in 2016, and after a pretty arduous, I guess word is good, vetting process, I was named as a CEO, and I'm super proud of that, because I think the reason why I'm sitting here today is because it's proven experience. I've always proven, and that's what I always stood by, is like, what you're going to get from me. I'm always going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. And if I say I will do it, it will be done. And, so those are the things where you're like, that's my word, and you're like,
right.
I'm like a very strong believer. I'm like, never say yes unless you mean it. And, never change your mind. Like, I'm not a waffler. Like, if I say I'm doing it, I'm doing it. If I say this is the way it is, it's the way it is. Like, so I'm kind of like, I like to stick to what my conviction, I guess.
I love it. Well, one thing I've been super impressed with you, Dominique, and then with the association is NPMA, in my opinion, in my limited experience, you guys are so forward thinking. It does not come across to me as an association that's stuck in the past of doing things the way they've always done it, which every company can get into that cycle, right? Why are we doing it this way? Well, so-and-so did it, and they did it the way before. It seems like you guys are very forward thinking, very progressive in the way the world is changing. I mean, look, when I got involved with you guys, it was during the middle of a worldwide pandemic, right? I mean, my very first pest world was virtual. I mean, now I will tell you parts of it, I don't know what I've got myself into. Like, everybody talked about pest world is so amazing, and I experienced the virtual, but for you guys to be able to pull that off, I mean, that's a testament to how you guys are adapting to change in the world and through pandemics. I mean, how do you keep that mindset? Probably in a very traditional pest control being a very traditional industry, I would argue it's probably a little bit more difficult to think in that forward thinking compared to maybe some other technology or other industries that people are used to that, right?
Yeah, Rusty, actually, I mean, so first, I'm always going to push the envelope. And from a leadership style, like, I want to always think about how we can do things different. Like where I said, I just think life's about learning and growing. And, just because it is, doesn't mean that's the way it always should be. So, we're always assessing, we debrief every program, activity, no matter what it is, how can we do it better? And it probably makes people's heads want to explode sometimes, right? Like, oh my God, it's great enough. Like, how do we make it better? Are you kidding? Or just like, wow, it was good, but like, I mean, I don't have the capacity to do 5,000 other things to make it the best. So we do a lot of internal push on that. And we are definitely a culture of like, we can do it better. But you know what? It's because of our members. So I get you on the traditional, and I agree. I think our industry is a little slow on the adaptation, particularly in technology, and some other fields. So I think the pandemic has like accelerated our industry and the world probably 20 years ahead of where we would have been, right? But there are a lot of innovative, you're a great example, innovative people that come into the industry, or they were born into the industry, and they're just like they're entrepreneurial spirits. And so they're always thinking about how they can do their business differently because they want to grow. They want to be more profitable, or they want to do more things. They're just definitely, we always say like, we're here to serve an entrepreneurial, spirit and be innovative. And if we can't do that ourselves, we're not going to meet the needs of our members in the future. So that's something we think about a lot, like when we're thinking about programming and thinking about who we're trying to appeal to. Now, it's also, you want to be sensitive to the people that you're trying to bring along, that you don't leave people behind. So, but there are times in life, pandemic being the most recent one, where some of that stuff just kind of gets washed out. I guess is the best way to say it. But yeah, we're always going to be looking forward and always thinking about what we can do differently, how we can better serve. P3 is a perfect example. I know you've heard of that. So that's our purpose, plan, progress. And that was the thing, like we want to be strategic and we want to engage the members in that strategic dialogue. So every year we have that strategic session, which I'm super excited about. We're working on for the Executive Leadership Forum coming up in a couple of weeks. And we really take that serious. Like first, it's just energetic, it's dynamic. And I think you've sat in there, and it's just kind of like hearing all these great minds, really talk about their experiences, but what they're thinking about and where they want to see us moving. And they don't even realize that's what they're talking about. They're just talking. And then, so we kind of take that home and say, what were the nuggets? What were the things that we're like, well, that's just never going to happen. It's my world peace comment, right? Like, just like, well, that's great. World peace. Perfect. Let's set that one over here. But then what's the reality? And that's how the workforce development program came out of it. We're like, we've been listening to this for years. Okay. How do we make a difference? And we came home and we said, let's stop thinking about it the way we've always thought about it, which was we're in a satiation. How are we going to help? Like this is a problem for the businesses. Like we can do all these things, but it's really it's the challenge that we can't help lift. So we really kind of pushed that and said, we can find other ways. And we created a path, and I'm super proud of the program that we've developed and where it's going. And the idea that we could do that during a pandemic and invest a significant amount of funds into that program, and really, which I think this is game changer. I think members can say, you're helping me find people to work in my business, and now I can grow. I mean, that's the future, right? So anyhow, sorry.
Well, I remember at the last Executive Leadership Forum, that was one of the big topics, right? Obviously labor, I think there were a list of 10, 12 different topics, to potentially talk about, or, what were concerns. And there were things like, hey, where's the industry going, or workforce development, right? Trying to find the right people, which I'm sure you have to do in your own organization. How many team members do you have there at NPMA? What's the total count these days?
So we're down one person. So we're 34 right now. It's the largest the organization has been in 26 years. So and it's hard, Rusty, like as a small business, which I consider us a small business, we were a team of 12 to 15 for years.
Wow. And
how you operate and how you think and work with others changes tremendously when you get past 20 and then 30. And as a leader, the challenges are, exponential, it feels like. So, but yeah, 34 awesome team members.
Wow, that's awesome. I just finished up a role as a chairman of the board for the Auburn Chamber of Commerce. And so I've served on several boards over the years, and to see that kind of growth, because you're right. Most time you've got the small little nucleus that they're there forever. And then a lot of organizations and nonprofits or so, I'm sure they just kind of hover there for so long, but you guys saw the opportunity to grow the industry, right? Which means you had to grow your team. I mean, I just look at the events that NPMA puts on. I mean, it's killer. My first, of course, Pest World being my first my virtual meeting, but when I got to attend a physical Pest World in person, I was blown away. I'm like, this is freaking crazy. And I'm like, sending like all, pictures of my friends, like, look, I'm at Pest World. Like, what is that? Like, you nerd, like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't even get it, how cool it is. And then let's see, the Leaders Academy. I mean, wow. I mean, talk about getting out of your comfort zone, being thrown to the fire of like meeting people and networking. I mean, every event that I've been to, I've learned something. Each one has been different, and I've gotten something different from. Tell us about some events that NPMA puts on, because I know you're probably known most for your events and conferences and Pest World. And I want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing behind the scenes that people in the industry don't even realize maybe you're even doing. But let's talk about the events. Talk about the different conferences that you guys have. I know you just got back from one here recently, getting geared up to go to another one. Tell us about the different events that are out there.
Sure. Well, first, I mean, just as an overall thing, thank you for that, just the commendation, like Pest World. So that was like my baby for a long time. And my biggest thing was when people come to Pest World, and that's when things started evolving. And I think the industry started changing. I mean, I'd like to say it was because of us, but I just think overall we were all evolving. But I have a huge like pride in how we present ourselves as people, as an industry, and as an organization. And when folks like you are just, even the people who have been there for 50 years, show up at Pest World, I want them to feel like, wow, what an awesome industry I'm a part of. Like, Pest World, being a pest controller matters. Like, I'm into something like super cool. My show looks just as awesome and professional and dynamic as, some pharmaceutical show next door,
Absolutely.
whatever, right? So, I mean, so to us, that's important because it matters, right? It matters in your businesses, how you show up, and it matters for us to give that to you. So, so what's kind of around the pipeline? First, we just wrapped up our women's forum, which is a leadership program built on empowering women in the industry. It is for women and men, for all people. And it really is just a space where we can provide programming that's dedicated to building up our leadership in the organization and in the industry. It's been hugely successful. We're super proud of it. I don't know when we started. It was supposed to start during the pandemic. It was a brainchild that we were like, let's try it, let's do it. We've never really done something quite niche like that. And it's just every year doubles in attendance. So, finding those niche programs in areas that we can really make a difference in literally people's lives, in some cases is pretty cool factor. And that's what kind of inspires us to keep saying, what else can we be doing? Our Executive Leadership Forum, that's a program that we invite all of our leaders. All members are welcome to participate, of course, and come together where we really set a strategic path for the future, bringing everybody together. It's a great networking opportunity with leaders in the industry. So we're looking forward to that. Obviously with Pest World, we talked a little bit about the Academy. That's like a lifeline. We love the Academy. That's one of our most favorite events of a year. I mean, because it's all about working together. It's actually, we are a team, right? We're a team every day, but at the Academy, like, we're a team. Like, okay, how are we going to make this stuff happen? How are we going to pull this off? And we always are kind of rocking the boat on what can we do, and making sure we push ourselves to do wild and more crazy things, and making sure the education content is relevant, important, innovative to the attendees that are coming, because that's who we're trying to attract. Next year we have on the slate to do a workforce development summit. So we're super excited about that. It's going to be a honed in, obviously niche group of people that are going to come. I think a lot of owners, managers, and then people that might be in the HR space, recruitment, things like that might come. And it's going to be focused on how do we continue to build our workforce. So that's going to be super, super powerful. And I think, hopeful that we get a good attendance at that. That will be in May next year as well. It'll probably be combined with our women's forum. So that's the plan right now. So we're still working through the details.
Maria, make a note, May next year.
First week of May.
I'll be there.
Second week of May. And the behind the scenes stuff, Rusty, I mean, for us, it is kind of always testing like the programming, the delivery, making sure it's like done in a way that people can feel. I will say, there was definitely a space. We're doing more online learning. So we do have that as part of our resource center, and we are building that up for the members, but we want it to be super relevant, not redundant. What others are doing, but face-to-face is what matters. We are a people business in the pest control industry. And so we have found, I think the pandemic helped show everyone like being together matters, and being together matters. It does build us up as people, as individuals, and as businesses to be better for the long haul. And it's certainly more fun doing it together in person than it is virtually. But we've learned a lot about how virtual opportunities like this, being able to talk virtually together really do matter too. So I think, creating that blend and finding the place that makes people feel included and beneficial is important to us. So technology is huge, always looking at that. How do we better deliver on-site technologies? What type of things like our CEU tracking? I don't know if this seems like such a behind the scenes thing, but when you're in industry and you've literally been doing a process. So if Maria, maybe you've not had the pleasure of seeing it, but it's called the punch form. Like I need to get my credits tracked for my sessions, and I need somebody to punch it with like a little paper clicker. We have special ones. They are like specially designed for NPMA, and I mean, literally been doing it for like it could be 100 years. I don't know, right? We're 90 years old. My guess is it was the same thing done for the 75 years and more. So we're really trying to push the industry, and that's something for us. Like we said we have to put the cart before the horse on this one. We needed to spend the money on the technology, the process, get the data, like have a place where we can store the data, do all the right things to build it up before the states were really on board. So we can do stuff all day, but if the regulatory agencies aren't participating or want to support that, then it's for naught to some degree, right? So, but we're like, well, we need to set it up, we need to show, we need to demonstrate, and then we need to bring them along. We just need a few key states to really kind of jump in with us, and then hopefully it will be a trickle effect. Again, the pandemic was a blessing on that one because it pushed them to recognize,
right,
online learning. So just kind of the way they work with the online learning and the reporting. So we're actually able to accelerate that, which seems like such a small thing. It really does. But when you're in an industry that you want to say you're being more advanced in, you're promoting a higher technology and you're doing a paperless business, right? You're doing everything by device, and then you show up at an event and you're working off a paper form, and,
right,
shuffling papers, getting them punched, and then from an administrative piece for us, it's a lot, but for the states, it was a huge amount. And then for you guys to track it. So anyways, it's still in the process. We would love to have that be built out more, but that's a piece that's like literally, we're like, this is like a decade plan. Like, this isn't something we are going to accomplish today, but we are going to keep at it. So there's some behind the scenes things like that we are definitely working on. So our database, really also building out a way for us to be more inclusive, creating an opportunity for people to inform us a little bit more about themselves so that we can really meet the needs of all of our members, and know who our members are. So those are little things that we're kind of trying to, be in tune with a little bit more, but creating the platforms to do those. I'm sure I'm missing some things. Well, legislative day, I can't not talk about that. So that's
when I was going to bring that up. I mean, that was the last event I've been to. I guess that was 2 years in a row, and where I graduated, got to go up on stage, get my diploma. But again, with NPMA being advocate for those that are members and non-members, really, I mean, it's not just the members.
Whole industry
really is advocating for the industry. Talk about that with Legislative Day, and those were some of the things that I think those that aren't members don't realize is being done on their behalf, and why the support and membership is so important outside of all the other value and the benefits that are there.
Yeah, no, I mean, Legislative Day kind of really rounds out the idea of advocacy for the industry. So really kind of going up, talking with legislators and really saying, this is who our industry is. We are professional, organized, well-trained, industry. And these are the things that we need to be successful, to continue protecting public health, property, and our food. right? Like these are important things. Like, and if we can't operate as an industry, then, you know, the whole population suffers. So legislative day just creates such a strong format for that. It really does bring together the leaders of the industry and all types of people, really, which you've got to experience. And it's a really strong moment for us because it demonstrates to every person what they do matters. You know, like it doesn't matter how small your business is or how big your business is. You're a resident and you live in a community, and your voice matters, and the service you provide to your community matters to your legislators. So that's been huge. So this year we're working on the farm bill, and people will be like, what does that mean? Like, we're not farmers. Like, how does that apply to us? You know, but if you dig into it, the farm bill kind of encompasses a lot of things. And one of the things is relevant to this industry. And that is regarding the preemption. And that's huge for us. So it creates a lot of hardship for our members, you know, when there's all these local bans, and there's just not a standardized way of communicating or understanding or operating, you know, in a community or a state. So
not to interrupt, but will you explain what that is? Because I was not familiar with it till I'd been involved and been around it. And then once I realized what it was, I'm like, man, this is a huge deal.
So, and there are many states that have it, but that's the thing, it's a state rule, right? So it's all based on the states. But then when you get into a state, like for example, here in the Washington DC area, like you could operate in 3 states, maybe 6. So, so what will happen is if you don't have a rule of preemption, then they will go in and communities, so like a county can pass a legislation to say, we're going to manage and regulate the way the pesticides are applied differently. So it gets so granular, and you're letting all these communities, first of all, they're probably not educated, right? They probably don't have the real science, you know, behind it. And I'm not to diminish what their feelings are or how they go about it, but often it's not a science-based decision. It's emotional. It's a residential, you know, feeling of pesticides are bad, you know. And so it's super important through preemption. It will basically be federally mandated that the rules that are applied through EPA would be upheld by the state agencies, and the state agencies would be the one that would actually be regulating it. And it doesn't get trickled down to be allowing, you know, all the different, you know, municipalities or local districts, things like that, to change the rules that make it very difficult for our industry to operate.
I mean, we're in 3 different markets within Alabama. Oh, I guess 4 within Georgia now. And I can imagine, I mean, there's already, you know, just keeping up with different business licenses in different counties or cities, much less different rules and regulations. And we can do this and do that. I mean, just the red tape it would create, and just, I mean, sort of chaos. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. And that's how it could feel. So then people might decide not to do business there at all, or they'll just, you know, kind of have this, you know, spend a lot more time on the bureaucracy of the business versus really just doing the good work that they do. And it really is education. It's just about saying, hey, listen, we're trained professionals. We are here to, you know, apply in a very integrated pest management program. So it's really educating them about what it is. And it's just the perception, right, of what this industry is. And that's like PPMA, the great work that they're doing and educating, you know, all people about this industry and how important it is in protecting all the things that matter to us. So it's a big lift, I'll tell you. Like, so we did it, we went after the farm bill last time, so it's every 4 years. And I will say though, some people would be like, well, we lost, let's, you know, move on, let's not try again. But that's just another example, this team and the industry and the support that we get from our members. We're like, no, we may not have won that war, but we won a battle. Because we created some coalitions, you know, or became part of some coalitions. So we had some allies, we made friends, and we created a stronger position for this industry, and one that was much more credible than in the past, right? So, you know, I was like, we did win. I feel like we did a lot of wins, and we're going to be better positioned the next time. And you know what? I think we feel usually we go into it, we're like, well, you know, we're going to give it everything.
Right.
We have to. I mean, this is a fight we're fighting and keep fighting, but we're feeling pretty optimistic. And I think to feel optimistic is empowering, because often you just feel like I'm doing it and I'm going to give it my best, but I know at the end that the path may not feel the same. So I feel like, knowing that there could be wins that look a little different, but in this one, I think there's some real positive energy that we may be really making some headway.
I think it goes back to what you said too, just about using your voice and having conviction. You may not see the outcome at the end that you wanted, but I think it's really cool that you are allowing people to have a platform to come together and express themselves, because that's really hard. Like you said, you want to have this perception of people have this perception of the industry, but there's so many parts that go into it. So I think it's so cool. Like you said, just remember to use your voice. That's, I think what you said at the very beginning, and it seems to be like the theme in everything that you're talking about, which is amazing, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to use it. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the future of the industry. Again, we've talked about the world changing so much. The pandemic definitely sped that up in a lot of ways. I mentioned all the time on this podcast. I personally feel like technology and the world has changed faster. I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years than it probably has in the last 50 years. Not that I'm that old, but I'm definitely hitting like this point in my life where, you start to reflect back and like, okay, I've been through the Great Recession. I've been through the pandemic and these things. And, there are companies out there, obviously, that are trying to disrupt the industry in positive ways, right? Your Amazons, your Ubers, different things like that have just completely changed the way we buy products or the way we transport around, right? Where do you see the pest control industry into the next, 5, 10, 15 years? Like, where do you see there's opportunity for growth? Will it be kind of traditional in a sense? I know I chose this industry because a robot or a computer can't go treat a home, right, to protect them. Now, there may be drones at some point, or there may be some of that technology, but where do you see the industry going in the next bit?
So, I'm excited about this industry today and for the future, because it is about the people, Rusty. It's about the people that we serve, and it's about the people that we, work with and doing the work that we are doing. And even if technology has an important role, it makes us more efficient. It will allow us to do things that are maybe beyond the physical capability that we have today, and they will make us better business people. But I think at the end of the day, that's what makes this industry so wonderful, but also successful and continuing to grow, because we're still a people industry and we're doing a service for people. And I think that personal connection is something that most, I think, in this industry really understand and they nurture. And that is the secret sauce, right? That's what's awesome about this industry. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to tell your friends, like, wow, these people like share, like they'll just tell me all about their business. They'll share their P&Ls. Like, they'll share everything. Maybe some share more than others, but in general, it's a very sharing and nurturing industry. And you don't find that. That's not normal. That's not all industries, but it's because it's a secret sauce. Secret sauce is who you are as a person, who the culture is as your team, and how you show up on your customers' doors. And that's what makes the difference. And that's what makes everyone unique. So I think future, I see us growing, through the workforce development program, through the amazing work that PPMA does, and really just continuing to educate the public about the value of professional pest control. I think, I hate to keep using the word pandemic, but I think that really did push a lot of people to see things differently. So the industry has a great opportunity to continue its growth pattern. I think it also showed some of the things that were maybe not pitfalls, but a little bit of like, ooh, maybe my business model needs a little bit of adjustment. Right. So I think, people are going to be stronger for the future, certainly better prepared if something happens. Luckily we're an essential business, so that's awesome. But, I think we'll be better prepared, and I think we'll continue engaging technology. Some will be slower than others, no question. But I think the cost of technology, like all new technologies, will become more accessible, and businesses will have the opportunity to really engage in how they use technology to better do their position. Pest control will always be what it is. We're eliminating the threat of dangerous pests, right? So, how we do it is what matters. And that's where the technology really comes in, and how businesses become more efficient. And I'm sure you were in the business, like a business of business. You weren't a pest controller, right? Coming in, And that's the difference too, is you'll see in the industry a lot, and I'm sure you've met lots of people that you're like, that's a guy that's been doing pest control for 25, 40 years.
Right.
And then you'll be like, that's a guy that came in to run a business.
Right.
He found a really awesome pest control, professional. So it's evolving like a lot. Like it's just changing on who the makeup of the industry is. And now we're becoming stronger because of that. Because now we have real pest control professionals that are really highly trained, and you have business professionals, people that are really keen on running strong businesses. And because of that, the growth becomes exponential.
Sure, yeah. What advice would you give, let's say, to someone new in the industry, or maybe someone who's been in the industry for 25 years, and look, just because they still do everything on paper and they're going inside the home spraying every baseboard, or doing, maybe kind of the way I grew up with someone doing and treating my house, right? That doesn't mean it's just a different way, right? And things are different. What advice would you give someone to say, hey, to continue to be relevant in this industry, and to thrive with your business as a pest control operator, whether you have 2 employees or 200, what are some things you feel like one needs to be ready to adapt to, or maybe put on their radar to know the direction that the industry is going, or maybe the world in general is going as it relates to pest control?
I mean, I think almost as humans, really, I just think listen to yourself, follow your instincts, but that's a huge piece for me. And, hopefully we've all been blessed with a little bit of that, but also like listen to the people that you work for and your customers. So like you said, everybody's business might be in a different place, but they'll remain relevant if they're asking. They have to be open. They have to first ask. That's the first question, right? You have to ask the question, and you have to be ready for the answers. And then what do you do with the answers? And to better engage and say, how do I continue serving you in a better way? And I think if we do that as employers, as, business people with customers, I think we will always be willing to adapt and to learn, and that will enable us to grow. I think if people are willing to listen, ask and listen, I think that's huge. So if I were giving advice to somebody, I would be like, do you talk to other people in the industry very often? Have you met anybody? Like, I would want to connect you with somebody, right? I'd want to say, hey, let me connect you with somebody I think that would really be insightful for you, or lend some great business advice, or just somebody to banter with. And of course, NPMA, right? I'm always going to talk about NPMA. But I just think once people connect with others in the industry, it's just like a natural progression, to say, I can learn. And I think that's the key, right? I'm willing to adapt. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to make changes, small or big, it could be incremental, and I think really just understanding what your capacity is super important too. So I think sometimes people jump far and they might realize growth too fast, too far, and now we're all suffering. So I think sometimes that self-realization about what's my real capacity, and how can I do this in a way that's good for me, for my people, and to make sure I'm still offering the great service that my customers have signed up for. That would be my advice is honestly, people engage the people that matter, that will help you succeed. And it may not be other pest controllers. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's, other people in your community, right? Other groups. Like I belong to a Vistage group, so that was something highly recommended. And I find it super insightful to talk to other business owners and business people about how they run their business, and glean information that, their space might look different than mine, but I can still learn from their experiences and adapt that to how my thinking looks.
Absolutely. Well, wrapping up, number one, I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for what you do for NPMA. Thank you for being a leader in a leadership role for me personally, coming into this industry as an outsider. And I keep calling myself an outsider. I'm going to look up and I'm going to be an insider. I don't know at what year milestone that hits, but July being 3 years, I learned and was exposed to so much because of not only NPMA, but the leadership program that I was very blessed to be a part of, and the networking and the connection with people all over the country. And that's something that I never would have had the opportunity to do had it not been for NPMA. I've made them, to a degree in our local and through state associations, but to your point earlier about, this industry being so great and people wanting to share and willing to share. And, I'm like, okay, everybody's talking about their bottom line and how much revenue and profit. And I'm like, this is something I've never talked about as a business owner. This is very interesting. But, that's where I was able to learn, like, what should my gross margin look like for, for my company? What should a net income and all that's there. And so, I would argue for someone who wants to learn more about growing their business, whether it's growing 10, $20 million in revenue, or if it's staying at whatever size they are, but they just want to be better for their customers. I would argue you can make relationships within this industry through NPMA and through these other networks like you're referring to get to where you want to be. And so with that, I want to thank you. We appreciate your time. Maria, I see you over there taking a lot of notes. This is a strong woman you want to follow and learn from.
Yeah. Definitely. I thank you so much for your time. I mean, you're a trailblazer in everything that you do, it sounds like. And moving forward, I'd love to get connected with you and just see some of the organizations that you've been a part of. And yesterday, Rusty mentioned we were at this Women in Business luncheon, and they talked a lot about just having your own advisory board and, having people in your corner outside of work, or who your family is. And it sounds like you have that, and it's helped you get really far. So just very inspiring, and I hope to keep this connection, and thank you for your time. It's been very rewarding. As you can see, I took a lot of notes.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, on the record, off the record, I think it's no surprise. I didn't know what pest control was when I started here. And I guess I'm embarrassed, but I didn't know what I didn't know. I love this industry, and it's the people that I love the most. I mean, I really do feel blessed that I have the opportunity to work with good people who care about themselves, their communities, the people they serve, their employees. And I think that's just true of the industry overall. And, so for me personally, just to work here and be able to serve them, it's a blessing. It's amazing. I couldn't ask for a better job, right? Like, and I don't consider this a job. Like, I love it. People talk about retiring. I'm like, I love my job. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what else will I do? Like, it was like, you're like my passion and my hobby and my job all at once. I don't know where I'd go, but, and it really is the people. So that's where I always kind of go back to, like, and I love that NPMA provides those connections, and provides the outlets and the opportunity. And there's so many amazing things. Maria, I would love to connect with you. The Professional Women in Pest Management is a great piece of our organization that will put you with other women growing, wanting to learn more about the industry. But there are other groups too that are certainly less focused on just women, but just in general. Just being a strong person for this industry.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate your time, Dominique. Go get ready for your big birthday bash coming up this weekend. I hope you'll have a successful party, and maybe your husband will end up in the lake or something.
Yes. Just pray for no rain, but I'm prepared. I got it all prepared. We're ready.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. We'll talk soon.
Right. Thanks. Take care.